now have our next speaker. The subject is SEO as a team sport. Our speaker is Eric Blackwell. Eric is Director of Technology for Remax Properties East, a real estate brokerage of 128s in Louisville, Kentucky. He helps realtors reach and assist their clients using technology, and he's the webmaster of homesinlouisville.com. He's passionate about helping realtors succeed in their online marketing efforts and leading by example. Eric?
Good afternoon. Let's get started. All right. Actually, let's go back to the title here. SEO is a team sport. First of all, I'd like to know before I start, how many of you actually put as one of your priorities getting ranked on the search engines or do some form of SEO for your brokerage or as an agent? I know that there's a few of you in here. Okay, good. I want to start with a little bit before we even get to the first slide. I want us to talk a little bit about maybe why you haven't up until now. Why didn't you go for that? It's been most commonly, I've found that people think A, it's voodoo, right? That there's some magic to it. Or B, that it's impossible. Or C, that even if I get to the top, the leads that I get are garbage anyway. Okay? So let me start by talking a little bit about some myths along that regard. I'm the Director of Technology for a firm that has 110 agents now. We had 120 at one time. I started, we've been on the top of the search engines pretty much for the last 4.5, 5 years in Louisville. During that course of that time, we've averaged probably 40 to 45,000 home searches a month. We've pulled in leads for our agents. We currently, so far this year, have pulled in just over 7,000 leads for our agents, for those 110 agents. So when I say that it works, I'm not saying it from a standpoint of, gee, this is theoretical. I'm telling you that it does work, and people do. We have agents in our office that are using these leads and closing on them. Now, the whole idea behind that is, I think a lot of the fear and trepidation is they think, oh my gosh, I can't do anything as far as SEO. Then they swing to the other way, which is, I can do nothing but SEO. And the reality is, it's just another leg on your stool. It's just another stream of income. It's just another, as Wayne said, another potential source of leads. I've actually worked with Wayne over the past couple of years as he's done his, and I really think that that hasn't changed his stance on HomeGain one iota. It actually makes you more secure when you've got multiple streams of leads coming in. He said something that I found pretty profound, which is having the leads. If you don't have leads, then you're in trouble. You have to have the leads. And so this is another way of making that come to pass. Okay. I try and specialize in just talking about search engine optimization sort of in plain English, not necessarily talking about it in technobabble, which you get a lot, title tag this, meta tag that. Let's just start talking about it from its basics, which is, when we talk about search engine friendly, what do we mean? Well, there's a couple of ways we can do it. Number one, it's most commonly meant that it's friendly for Google or any of the other search engines to go out and be able to wander through your site and find what your site's about, and then index that so that it can be searched, and then so that it can rank on their index. That's what most commonly is meant by search engine friendly. I'm also going to talk a little bit today about how to more personally make things for us to be search engine friendly. And what I mean by that is, how do we use social media? How do we use blogging? Are we really doing it in a way that helps Google to see what we're doing, or are we just creating more and more and more and more social media? Okay, the secret to on that side of things is being seen, being able to be seen, and being seen. Okay? Think of the search engines more like you would, well, in high school. That's kind of a painful thing for me because I was one of those geeky little kids, right? Skinny, didn't, But the reality is, my way of getting through high school was very much the same way that you should do it with the search engines. I wasn't a big kid. So what I do? I made friends with some of the popular kids, right? And I'd just hang out with them. And then when somebody else said, well, who's he? They said, oh, it's okay, he's with me. Right? So then they assumed I was cool. Then they talked to me and they found out otherwise, but that's okay. All right? So it really is simple as that. Okay. Let's talk about what search engines want. You ever wondered why search engines put one real estate site ahead of the other when there's umpteen thousand real estate agents in the same market, all who have, an IDX and all that stuff? Search engines crave relevance. And what they crave is something that is timely, something that is about the subject matter, and something that's written by an authority. Well, that sounds pretty easy, right? Timely. A lot of people take timely to mean that it's got to be written all the time. But what it really means is timely information on your website can be as simple as having an IDX, because you have the current listings. They want their users, Google wants its users to, when they search for something, they actually go in and find what they were looking for. Okay? They want that to be the way that things play out, is that people are happy with their search. And by being relevant, they've now beaten Yahoo down to the point where MSN, or Bing we now call them, just signed a 10-year deal to basically power the search for Yahoo. That's what happens when you have a search that doesn't have relevance and people don't use you, and they turn Google into a verb. Right? Once Google becomes a verb, it's over. Okay? A lot of us, especially a lot of the bloggers that I was talking to, would love to have somebody compete with Google a little bit more. Right? Google has an awful lot of information about us, and we'd like that to change a little bit. But that's another story for another day. The interesting thing down at the bottom, written by an authority. How do they know what an authority is? How do they determine that I'm the authority in Louisville versus any of the other 4,000 realtors that are there? All right? Well, Google was founded on the principle that on-page optimization alone was nowhere near satisfactory to determine relevance. Now, what do I mean by on-page? What I mean by on-page is all that text, all that goop that's on the page, right? They figured that wasn't near enough being satisfactory enough. So if you had, if you ended up putting Louisville real estate, Louisville real estate, Louisville real estate, Louisville real estate, Louisville real estate on your page, and if that alone was used as a criteria, then every result from the top, from number 1 and number 10 would look all alike, wouldn't they? Make sense? So that was nowhere near enough. So Sergey Brin and put together and Larry Page put together their thesis, which was that you need to gauge relevance and gauge the authority of somebody by how many people were willing to link to them. Fair enough? All right. That we're going to build on that. We're going to build on that idea, and we're going to talk a little bit about how that works and how that works with HomeGain. Whoops, already got there. So you say, how do I get there? It's funny, everybody teaches you how to optimize all the on-page stuff, right? Every time you hear one of those SEO firms call you or send you email, and I know you guys get a gajillion of those things, right? They're all talking about, well, change your title tags, change your meta tags, and some of that to some degree is true. If you just go to my site at Eric on Search, Google actually published a manual for how to do the basics of it. We published it last November. It's free. Just click on it. It says Google's Basic Search Engine Optimization Guide. All right? It talks about all of that. And if you have a website and you want to just tell the person that's doing your website, here, make it like this, to a large extent they can. Many of them won't, but to a large extent they can. It's the basics. It's not the detailed stuff, but it's a good start. So we'll get to that. All right? Have you ever? But what if you don't have a website or a good web presence that you really want to build? Did you know that you can rank for terms and do search engine optimization without even having a website? You can do it on HomeGain. You can write on other people. Anytime you write on any other thing, if you're writing on Agent View, right? What are you doing? You're doing search engine optimization, you're just not doing it on your own place. See, and I know that sounds hokey, but think about it for a second. HomeGain's built up all their authority over the course of time. When you're on there and when you're writing on there, all you're really doing is borrowing that authority. You're saying, I'd like to take some of what Lewis has there at HomeGain and everything, I'd like to use some of that. Well, does Google know the difference? No, and we're going to go further into that, but I just wanted to throw that idea out there for you. Okay? We want to be cool, right? I told you that's how I tried to survive high school, was trying to be cool. It's not just about being cool, it's actually about having the authority. We want to be respected, right? We want Google to respect us. We want the other search engines to respect us and know that we have something to say that's of value. We want to build our authority online. If you look at bloggers like Jay Thompson, who's here, he has worked on his site and his web presence and his blog incessantly for how many years, Jay? Just over 4. Okay? I know of no one who can keep up with the guy. I don't, in terms of just consistently putting out quality content. Okay? If everyone likes you, especially an authority, in other words, and especially an authority site likes you enough to link to you, you must be adding value. That's how Google views it. So in other words, not all links are created equal. If you get a link from somebody that's been around a while, one of the cool kids in high school, and they link to you, then that's far better for you than if just somebody creates a brand new site and Google has no idea who they are. So we'll get into some of that too. Okay. If links matter, if authority matters, I like to use the word authority much better than links. Links just sound so, I don't know, wrong. Authority sounds better. So if you want to link to some people, a good place to start is linking with colleagues, which is what a lot happens in the real estate business, right? You know, I link to Jay, Jay links to me because he likes something I write. Everybody gets, and so it becomes a giant, whirling dervish. And in the meantime, we forget sometimes to link to one of the other potential sources of great links, which is our potential clients. You can do the same thing on a local level, right? You can link to other people that are in your community that are blogging that actually could buy a home from you. So there are 2 main groups that we work with when we talk about how to generate authority and how to work with links. We start with colleagues and then we go to potential clients. Okay. As I said earlier, what if you could borrow HomeGain's reputation, online authority, blogging platform, etc. for a day? What would you do with it? Okay? Something to think about. Something to think about. Would you write there and maybe link back to your blog? Sure. Would you write something there? How would you construct it? Well, one way of doing it is to write something on your blog and then mention it with some further analysis on your other one. Maybe one of the ways that you would do it is to write it there and have it rank for something using that authority. Maybe somebody in town, you want to write something nice about a local, that some local businessman did. You end up ranking for their name. Then what you do is you send them a little email and you say, gosh, I wrote this blog post, I didn't even realize that I ranked for your name. Think they're going to call you? Absolutely. People like their names. They like to do that. That's a simple way of using search engine optimization that doesn't even really require a whole lot of effort. Okay? Write something nice about somebody and then drop them a note, let them know that it's there, and have them call you back. Connect with them. Okay. As far as Google or any of the search engines are concerned, you can't tell who wrote the content. There's no way to know. They don't sit there and they go, and so you could have 10 people author on a blog. Google does it by the domain of the blog. So when I've had one person in this room, Kevin Coitz, he's written on my blog at Eric on Search before, right? Google didn't know that wasn't him. They thought it was me. They have no idea. They just put it on Eric on search. So utilize that to your advantage a little bit. We do need to be careful when we talk about search engine optimization. One of the common things that people say about it is that we have to be careful how much time we spend. And that's very true. That's not a myth. All right? I view my job as an SEO consultant many times as not really talking to anybody about all the tips and tricks and techniques. Yeah, I know them, and yeah, I study them. But most of what I do is try and help people focus their time so they're not wasting time. Because what they end up doing is they end up spending tons of time rather than focusing on stuff that actually will generate them some goodness. So let's talk about all online communities and social networks and blogging platforms are not created equal. Why am I comfortable talking about HomeGain's platform? Why am I comfortable talking about some of the other ones that I do, and why don't? One of the natural questions somebody should be asking me is, well, what are your criteria? Here's my criteria real quick. How to choose which social networking platform or blogging platform you spend your time on. A, do they promote the realtor? Do they connect you with the realtor? If they do not, probably not a good source of your time, no matter what the links are. B, are they stable? In other words, have they been here for a long time? Are they stable? Are they going to be around for a long time? Because you don't want to write content on someone else's site and then have it go away. Because when you write content on someone else's site, it is then their content. Okay? Period, point, end of story. You are writing it on their site. They have control over it. Third thing, if you write it on someone else's site, you want to make sure that they're not prone to change things back and forth. If they constantly shift things around and change them, you really don't want to do that, because your hard work and your effort should stay. You want it to stay the way it was intended to be. Okay? Fourth thing, are you able to get links back to you for the time that you spend? I don't care how free a blogging platform is. I really don't. There's a ton of free ones out there, and they're worthless in terms of doing something that will actually help you SEO-wise. I'm not interested in free. I'm interested in value. SEO isn't free. It takes time. It takes effort. What I'm interested in is value. For the effort, do I get a return on that investment? That's how I evaluate it. So that's just some of the things just to keep in your mind as you choose where you are. And remember that, and I hope nobody gets offended at this, but Google doesn't count points. Right? There's one big major blogging platform, we won't mention any names, ActiveBrain. And those points aren't going to get you to Google heaven. All right? It's just not going to work that way. Okay? So I'm not saying don't go there. I'm not saying don't share ideas there. I'm not saying do it. But don't do it with the intention that you're going to get a bunch of SEO goodness out of it, because it ain't there to be found. Okay? Let's look down. Another one is growth. Are there more people coming in to this blogging platform? Is the authority of the blogging platform continuing to build? If it is, then that's a good thing, because other people writing on their site can only help you. Another one is the ability to connect to the end consumer. If you write on it, can you rank for something, and are you comfortable that the end consumer can go in there, or is it just a bunch of realtor-to-realtor chatter? That's important, because we're not just writing on these other sites for our own benefit or to hear ourselves. We're writing on them to increase our business. Last one, anchor text control. Do you know what I mean by anchor text? Okay, let me explain it real quick. If I had a link that said HomeGain, right? Or if you know how you see a link that says HomeGain, and then when you click on it, it goes to www.homegain.com. The www.homegain.com is the destination. the anchor text is HomeGain. Okay? So if I've got one that says Louisville Real Estate, and it goes to www.homesinlouisville.com, you click on that, the destination is www.homesinlouisville.com, the anchor text is Louisville Real Estate. Why is that important? Well, Google evaluates a lot of what a link is worth by the anchor text. Okay? So to them, you will rank more. If I consistently have links back to me that say Eric Blackwell, then I will rank more for Eric Blackwell. If I have consistently more anchor text that says Louisville Real Estate, then I will continue to start to rank for that. That's why you see in some of the blogs, some of you that blog a lot, you'll see people go out there and try and comment as North Carolina Real Estate, right? I don't encourage that. That's not good. It's not who you are, right? When I write on the Bloodhound blog or some of the other places I write, I'm Eric Blackwell, right? If you want to argue with me, you want to like me, it's all good. I'm okay with that. It's me. I'm not Louisville Real Estate. So represent who you are. Okay, but when you choose a community to work with, anchor text control is a really good thing. Okay, one of the common things that people like to do when they get on these platforms is they say, well, I want to just see how many links I can pull off of those platforms and point them to my site. And that really isn't the purpose that they're designed for. Whether you're talking about the Real Estate Webmasters blogs, or you're talking about HomeGain's blogs, anyway, the purpose is not to see how many links you can stuff yourself with. The purpose is to add value to the community and to rank as well for that post. So you need to title that post appropriately for what you want to rank for. Okay? Blogging platforms are great for less competitive terms, but they still generate dollars. My site ranks for well over 2,000 terms. Okay? To where they generate traffic. The number one term is Louisville Real Estate. It makes up about 6.4% of my traffic. The other 93.5 or whatever it is, comes to all those other terms. Those are the long tail terms. And those long tail terms range from everything from Louisville Remax to on down to 1234 Main Street, Louisville, Kentucky 40202. Right? So those lesser terms are really easy to rank for. Any post that you write about anything will probably show up there for those. So you want to use those because those do tend to pick up stuff over time. All right? You can do that. It's a good way to go and build some additional traffic to your site. All right. Create internal links to your blog or profile page by using links on the other internal pages of the platform. What that means in English is when you're writing on a blogging platform, a lot of times you have a profile page. That's become the prominent way to do things. You have all these, you have a profile page that talks about you as a realtor, and then it says my website, my blog, my blah, 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 and you can put those links there. Well, what you forget to do sometimes is to make sure that you take the links in the other pages where you write stuff on a platform and push links over to that. Make sure you link to your profile and drive the link strength that way. Once again, what are you doing? You're building authority to the page that's going to build authority to your personal site. So you're letting them help you. It's a simple thing, but it's something that you need to do. These are basics, and I don't want you to think that what I'm telling you is something that is a big secret that anybody's been keeping from you. It's just practical stuff to help you get through. Okay. One thing, just a note about blogging platforms, whether you're talking about HomeGains or you're talking about, any number of them, right? They all have different terms of service. Make sure you read them before you get started. Understand what they say. If you're going to participate in an online community, make sure you understand where it's at and what it's about. All right? If you don't agree to the terms of service, don't blog there or don't write there. But a lot of times people start in and really start getting involved in a community, and then they realize that they've somehow violated, they've offended somebody. And there's no excuse for that really, because you should be able to check out their terms of service, what they say they want you to do up front. So make sure that you check that out. And I put down here at the bottom, avoid the treadmill effect. The biggest thing that can cost you time is to get stuck in one of these communities that just keeps up in the ante and up in the ante and up in the ante. And pretty soon you're spending a whole bunch of time getting a whole bunch of nothing. And then you go, well, this SEO stuff doesn't work. And the reality is, it does work. It can work. More appropriately, it can work. It takes the effort, and it takes smart effort to get you there. Okay, I know this is real small, so those of you in the back are probably got a microscope out there, or a telescope trying to read this, but this was a little something fun that I did a couple years ago. And it's an example of getting connected with people using somebody else's blog. How many in here are with Remax? Or is there anybody in here with Remax? Okay, there's a couple. Great. Marnie Blanco is the vice president over all of Remax's e-commerce. I've had the privilege of getting to know her a little bit over the course of a few years ago. Well, I dropped by the Remax convention a couple years ago, and she asked me a little bit about the SEO stuff, and I told her what I thought of some of it and what my opinions were, and she started laughing, and we joked around a little bit, and I said, by the way, have you Googled? I said, Google your name. And she did. She Googled it. So Googled Marnie Blanco, and turns out, she said, okay, great. And I said, well, I'm going to come back tomorrow, and I want you to tell me what you see. And she laughed. She said, okay, we'll do that. So I went over to one of the blogging platforms I participated on. I wrote a nice little post about meeting Marnie, and it turned out at the time that it came up 24 hours later. It was right under her Remax.com profile. It was number 2. She looked at me like, wow. All right. The thing about writing on other people's blogging platforms is that Google sees a lot of content going through there, so it spiders them fairly often. So it will actually rank them fairly quickly. That's kind of my point here. The other point is that when you write about it, it kind of connected us. I got a note a couple weeks ago from her about something else I'd written on another blog of ours that was about Remax, and so she thanked me with, for saying something kind and that on the note, and she said, by the way, hope everything else is going good. So I sent her a note back and I said, have you Googled your name? It's now been a year and a half, almost 2 years, and she Googled it, and her Remax.com profile is gone, and we're number 1 and have been the entire time. And when she did, she sent me a little note back, and we've become friends. I guess that's the point. Is I would have never had a chance to really become friends with her if I didn't take the time to do something like that. You can do the same thing in your community. My other point is, when you work on somebody else's platform, if you don't have your own platform built up yet, it can happen very quickly, right? You post it, a couple days later, it'll rank in many cases. All right. Another way that you can use it, like let's just say you're using Agent View. All right. Notice right now, and I don't know whether this is true. This is from a couple of weeks ago. I've been on the road, but Louisville condominium. If you type that in Louisville, you'll see that I have 2 posts. The Homes in Louisville one is poster number 1 and number 2. Notice that my Real Estate Webmasters blog is 3 and 4. So this is a kind of cool way to push the competition down, right? So I'm not only optimizing so I'm number 1 and 2, but so that they're not 3 and 4. Okay? And that's really easy to do when you're using someone else's authority, because you can get there with those, especially on the terms that aren't as competitive. Now, most of you would love to have the term Louisville condominium in your area. You'd say, hey, I'd like to rank in Google for that. That would be good. But the truth is, it's really not that competitive in our area, so it was a fairly easy thing to do. Okay. I want to go back to the title for a second. SEO is a team sport. Do you see why it's a team sport? It's because we're working with other people to get what we need. It's a team sport because we're connecting with people, we're helping people, we're paying it forward, we're doing what we need to do to actually connect with them in real life. We're building our true authority online. Okay? Another example of a community that my friend up in Washington, Joe Lane, uses is Squidoo. Now, it's a little different sort of a community. It's not real estate related at all. But if you look at him, his name on there is Semper Fi or Semper Fidelis. If you look at what he actually went out and did on there, he participated in the community, in a community that was going to give him links back. He worked it and worked it and worked it with his kids. He donated some of the, they have little things you can donate the proceeds to charity, and he used it. So there are ways of doing it in stuff that doesn't have to just stay right in the real estate sphere. You can go outside of the real estate sphere because, here's a little hint, your customers aren't always in the real estate sphere. You have to go where they are. And he's connected with people, he and his wife Colleen, that way. Okay. Let's talk about it for a second. I know we got questions, but if it's okay for you to grab it, where are some online communities you go, and what questions do you have about them? And I'd be more than willing to offer some thoughts on them. Trulia. Well, they violated my first rule. Remember, I want to work with somebody that's going to connect you to realtors and not versus selling ads. So I don't work with them on that basis. Now, that I know that may be a controversial statement on my part, but it's a choice I've made. The other reason that I choose not to work with them is that when we put our listings to them, they are no-followed coming back to us. But no-following is a technique that's used to make Google give the link no credit. So if you're going to not link back to me and you're not going to be a partner with me, then I'm not going to link to you. That's not meant as criticism of them. That's just my choice. I've written about it at the Bloodhound blog quite a bit. In my mind, people that are working in your best interest work in your best interest. And they do it consistently and they do it fairly. I'm more than happy to put content on anyone's site who's willing to give back to me. One of the criteria I forgot to mention was that on these communities you want to make sure that they're fairly free of spam. All right, Squidoo was actually doing quite well. They let a bunch of spam get through, and what Google will typically do in those cases, they will penalize them for a short period of time, and they will tell them what they need to correct in order for them to correct it and get back. And they appear to have done that. But yes, they did. And yes, there was a while where I didn't recommend going in there. But if you've got something where there's consistently a bunch of people just going, yeah, nice post, yeah, nice post, yeah, nice post, and there's no control over it, you're going to have a problem with that sooner or later. I would start your own blog. One of the things I think my answer to the question would be yes, but by all means start your own blog. That's your own asset. That's you, right? What I'm saying is use that in conjunction with these other things. Use that to help feed them. I hope I don't. Yeah, to quote our current president, let me be clear. That doesn't obviously mean that you need to get away from. You don't want to get away from building your own assets, right? And building your own assets doesn't mean that you don't participate in other communities. So the answer is yes. You build your own assets and you build them up. But when you need to, you'll find that you can build your microphone, if you will, by participating in some of these other communities and linking back, and so the answer is really yes. Obviously you want to build your own blog. Yeah, that's a great thing. I don't have a problem with that at all. I did it with Eric on Search, for that very reason. But it doesn't mean I don't write on the Bloodhound blog. It doesn't mean I don't write on my REW blog. There's more blogs than there are times, so it's more about prioritizing what you do. Where to start is probably a great question. If you're on Agent View, start there. But I would build your own blog as well. Like you said, start with your own blog. Okay, real easy to do. Okay, I build them for people, but this isn't an advertisement. But you can start by using either WordPress.com or WordPress.org blogs. I would recommend doing the WordPress.org and get somebody to set it up for you on your own hosting. where you can control it. All right. If you want some details, what I'm going to do is I'll put a little worksheet up on Eric on Search for how to get started, and you can just download it. I don't have it up there today, and I'm going to be traveling tonight, so but I will get it up there so you can actually have here's step by step what to start with, because it's not as complicated as it sounds. It sounds like a bunch of technobabble. The reality is it's not a bad way to go at all. But then if you're here and you're working with HomeGain already and you're doing agent view, utilize the two in concert. Utilize them. That's what they're there for, right? And they work together remarkably well. There's no reason to use one at the expense of the other. So the answer is yes. Okay. Let's see. We've already gotten some of this. Are there any other questions or any other thoughts? Well, that's a good question. Sometimes people talk about, when they do talk about SEO, where you can get links from directories, you can get links from commenting on people's blogs, you can get links from all these different sources. I can tell you my least favorite first, and then we'll tell you my most favorite. My least favorite is people that comment on blogs just to comment. I want somebody that's going to contribute to the conversation. My best example of that is actually right here in this room with Lewis. I didn't know Lewis until he started commenting on the Bloodhound blog. And I had never seen someone that was at an executive level in the real estate market have the courage to get on there and say what he actually thought under his own name. That was when I said, hey, this Lewis guy is kind of cool. I want to get to know him a little bit. And that's when I started talking to him. So if you're going to comment on a blog, be yourself. I mean, if you look at some of the stuff he's actually written out there, it's pretty good stuff. Not bad, Lewis. But more importantly than that, I mean, we could agree or we can disagree. That's okay. But it was well stated, and it was thought out, and it was thoughtful. So I don't like people that I have a hard time with people that just comment on blogs to get links. My favorite sources of links. My favorite sources of links are when I actually do a technique. It's not a technique. What I do is I write about them on my blog with a link out to them. And like if I like Paula Henry, she's a friend of mine. I'll link out to her, and then if there's something that I've seen that she wrote that I really like, and then if she links back to me saying thanks, or if she comments on my blog, beautiful. That's my favorite source, because a link means nothing if it isn't connected to a relationship. What you're really after is in the relationship and building authority business. It's really not about the links. And I know everybody likes to get caught up in links, but at the end of the day, links don't make you money on their own. They need to be connected with relationships. And if you get relationships, the links will follow. But you need to keep them where Google can see them and can actually see that you're making relationships. Kind of a little side note on Twitter and Facebook and other such stuff. I do have a Twitter account, but I don't spend a lot of time using it. I spend a little time putting a blog post up that's thoughtful and well thought out, and I may say something about it on Twitter to bring people back to my blog. But I'm not going to spend, nobody really wants to know that, all right, it's 10:48 and I'm going to use the restroom, right? Or I'm going to go get hot chocolate. They don't care, right? And does that further, with everything that I write, I have to evaluate myself. I go, am I furthering the image that I want to create of myself, because everything that I'm writing is public? That's not really an SEO principle or anything, but it's a pretty doggone good social media thought to take home. So, okay. When we think of colleagues, a lot of times we make colleague equal realtor. We're entrepreneurs. Our colleagues are any small business person that happens to be out there. Connect with them. Our colleagues are anybody that's local, right? Relationships don't equal links. Relationships equal relationships. If you build good relationships online, there will be links. They will follow. That's how it works. You want to connect with the people that are connected out there. You want to be seen being seen, like we said earlier. Okay. I'm going to give you another favorite kind of link that I got. This is actually really my favorite. I was sitting in my office one day, and with 110 agents, you guys can imagine what my day's like, right? It's pretty hectic sometimes. I get this phone call from a friend who started a company called Metro Mojo, which was Louisville Mojo. Small company that was social media before social media was cool, and he called me up. We'd done some advertising with him in the past, and he said, "Eric, I needed some help." By the way, he built the site to get tons and tons and tons and tons of traffic. He had three times the traffic of our local newspaper site. Okay? And he said, "I went to get another round of venture capital funding. And so I flew out to the Silicon Valley, and here's what happened. They told me everything was great except they didn't rank on the search engine, so I had to fix that and then come back to them." He said, "I'll pay you whatever amount of money it takes. Get me to rank." Now, I looked at his site, and I said to myself, he's got all these people linking to him. He's got everything right. He just needs to fix some of the little on-page things that were causing him problems. So I stopped. And I said to myself, I can do this two ways. I could charge him a ton of money, right? I called him back. I said, "Let's meet for lunch." He said, "Okay." I went over to his office. We sat down, and I said, "Here's what you need to correct." He said, "What are you going to charge me?" I said, "I'm not. I'm not going to charge you for something that takes me 10 minutes to do. You're a friend. You've been a friend, and I really appreciate it." 2 weeks later, his site was ranking. He went and got the venture capital. To this day, he still links back to my site from his, and the 17 other sites that have grown since that venture capital came in. That's my favorite kind of site, my favorite kind of link, because I developed a relationship for life. He knows me, he trusts me, he likes me, he knows that I did him a great job, just as a favor for a friend, and he was willing to link back to me. And if anybody ever asks him who to go to for SEO, he'll send them to me. Those are the links I like. Those are real relationships. Those are stuff that lasts and will stand the test of time. So I guess that's my favorite kind of relationship. So helping others, it's not just good karma, it's awesome business, right? I could have cashed that, I could have turned that into some money. I didn't. Local online. You all heard of Business Networking Incorporated, the BNI groups. Connecting with other people in your area is BNI on steroids. I mean, that's what it is. It's a great way to connect with them, get some leads, and build it in. If you don't have enough authority built up on your blog yet to write about someone else in town, write about them on your agent view, and then have a link back to your blog. However you do it, right? But you want to get ranking for them so you can talk to them a little bit and let them get connected with you. Okay. One of the people in here that does that is Brian Kincaid. Did Brian leave? Anyway, Brian has a website called cherrycreektoday.com. If you want to, just write it down and later check it out or whatever. One of the things that he does with Cherry Creek Today, he has a little business directory there that he's just starting to do it, but he's going to be adding people into the directory, adding local businesses into the directory. Maybe like 15 or 20 or 200 of them, right? And then send them out some emails and say, "Hey, thanks for joining my directory. I put you in my directory. Can you please check it and make sure the spelling's right and everything's like you'd like it to be?" How many phone calls do you think he's going to get back from that? From the local business community? Quite a few, I would guess. Right? So he's making friends. And when he talks to him, he says, "Oh, by the way, I'm a realtor." If you look at his site, it's kind of a community-based blog, and it's helping others in the community. All right, asking profitable questions. You can interview. One of the things that we talk about a lot of times as realtors, we talk about asking a question of somebody, and it's not a yes or no question, and they're just waiting, right, until they decide to say something back. Asking a question online is the ultimate pregnant pause. Think about that as a technique when you write a blog post. Don't be afraid to, instead of saying, as your blog post, I am the best realtor in the world, say, I'm not sure about this one. What do you guys think? Markets are conversations, and when you end something with a question, you immediately get more response. If you've written a blog and you haven't gotten a bunch of answers back yet, you know, a bunch of comments and some conversation starting, you either don't have traffic or you haven't gotten them to come back and talk to you yet. The way to elicit that is to ask questions. One of the mottos that I always do is the experts want to be treated like regular people, and the regular people want to be treated like experts. So, like I said, it's a team sport. My best advice, and I know this sounds hokey, right? It sounds like I'm telling you something that I don't do. But trust me when I tell you I do this every day. I try and use the golden rule. I try and pay it forward. I try and make friends with quality people, stand by them. Let me give you a little example of that. I met Wayne Long and another friend of mine, Ryan Ward, who's down in Atlanta, 3 years ago. We'd been online and communicated online quite a bit. When we actually met each other, we met in a little Mexican restaurant in the CNN Center, and it's kind of dimly lit. And we walked in. I instantly knew who Wayne was. And we instantly connected because we thought alike. We believed in paying it forward and working together. One of the first things we decided to do was do a little joint project, a little website for Georgia real estate investors. Right? I built it. They worked with it. It was a fun project. It taught us a lot. But the biggest thing that it did, and it generated some links back to our own sites for building it. But the real authority and the real power of it was our friendship over the years. The real authority of it was that we actually did and do care about each other, looked out for each other's interests, and built more stuff together. We're now working on several projects, and I'll be doing it with them more. And all those things build our own authority. Google wants relevance, and they want to see that you're an authority. You have to build that up over time. It doesn't come overnight. It is not totally easy. You convert relationships into links and relationships into links for life the same way you do customers into people for life. If you have a hard time converting customers into customers for life, you'll have a hard time converting links into relationships for life, or relationships into relationships for life. You have to commit to them and be willing to commit to them. If you call them a friend, be a friend. You have to stay committed to them. My journey over the past 4.5 years has been worth it. Not only do I have a great ranked site for the last 4.5 years in Louisville, I started my own business doing this, and I've made friends for life from around the country and around the world. That's important to me. That's what I wanted out of my business, and that's what I'm getting out of it. You can have the same thing. It just takes the commitment to utilize it. We did a little, and I'm going to skip through this really quickly, and I'm not going to go into this in too much depth. We did a little contest a year ago. I got a phone call from a friend who said, we're going to start a contest for the greatest real estate agent in the world. It was 1.5 years ago. I wasn't really well known at that point. I mean, the folks at Real Estate Webmasters knew me, but I wasn't really well known other than I did write on the Bloodhound blog some. We decided, he called me up and he said, I'm going to start this contest. So on May 1st, whoever ranks number 1 in Google for the term greatest real estate agent in the world is the winner. I said, you're kidding me. He said, no. And he said, I'm going to challenge your manhood. You got to enter it. And I said, oh, man. Okay, so I did. Right? And so we tried it. And we put a group of us together that was a team. There were 10 of us. A couple of them were here in the room. We tried stuff. We worked on stuff. We learned as we went. And little did we know, at the end of the time, we won against some of the biggest SEO folks out there. We got lucky in some ways. But the biggest lesson I took home from that was the friendship and the support and the authority that Google measures is real. It's not about how many ways can we trick the search engines. That's not what it is. I know as many times as I say that, somebody will come up to me and they'll ask me, they'll say, Well, I know you said that, but really, tell me. It's not. Build the links over time. Be an authority. If you want to separate yourself from everybody else, all the other realtors in your town, be more authoritative than every other realtor in your town. Okay? Yes, there are some on-page things you need to do to make sure that Google can get through your site. Yes, there are some things, some techniques that we use so that Google can read it clearly. But by and large, the biggest thing is be and keep relationships. And about Ryan Ward, he wasn't on the team, but he decided to take. We competed, and we kind of shook hands on the fact that whoever was winning towards the end would get the other guy's support. But I didn't. I'd forgotten about it. And towards the end of the contest, I get this phone call from Ryan. He says, "I just moved all my links over to you." That's a friend. That's not somebody that is trying to do something for a profit motive. He's just a nice guy, and we're having fun, and we're learning together. So, all right, here's my quick take-home lessons, and I guess we'll have time for questions. Try and connect with colleagues and prospective clients both. Don't just connect with other realtors. Connect with the folks that are in your local community. Use other people's platforms where it's practical, where it works, and where it's smart. Don't use it where it's not smart for you. We may differ on our opinions about what's smart and what's not smart. I'm just going to tell you mine unvarnished if you ask, and like I did. It's not that I don't like somebody. I love everybody. I just don't use some things. You know, I choose which brand of detergent I buy too. Strategize to be efficient. Don't waste time online. You don't want to sit there and do stuff where Google can't see you. If you have conversations, have them where Google can give you credit for them. And the last, dedicate yourself to helping people solve their problems and their concerns. That's what you do as realtors. That's what you're excellent at. You help people solve their problems. You can do the same thing online, and it'll help you. And lastly, relationships lead to links. Links lead to rankings. Relationships lead to rankings. A equals B, B equals C. You got the idea. Okay, any questions or anything about Google that you want to know and we're afraid to ask? Bing actually, here's the stats as far as I know them now. We don't know exactly what the Bing Yahoo thing is going to mean because they don't even know what it's going to mean yet. But the stats of last month, with all the advertisement that happened for Bing, they gained 0.4% of market share. Yahoo lost 0.5%. So the combination of the two lost 0.1%. Okay, so we're trading nickels here. But the reality of it is, I won't change anything because we still optimize for Google because Google has 70% of the +% of the market share. I think it will have a lot of beneficial effects for a lot of people. A lot of people that are in the SEO business really had a hard time even figuring out what to do with Yahoo because theirs was kind of different. So now we have 2 targets instead of 1. No big deal. It'll actually simplify things. It'll also actually, hopefully, strengthen Bing's branding to go up against Google. That'll be interesting. But a lot of this is too early to tell. We have a long way to go before we really know what it's going to mean. It's my own opinion is that Bing won, Yahoo lost, and Jerry Yang should have accepted that offer for $43 billion a year ago.